We'll start here at the NGx configuration server software. We'll log in. Okay, and now we're logged in. First thing we want to do is go to the system and then head down to the bottom to see if we're listening for any events coming in. And we're not at the moment. So what I'm going to do is add a port 3760. Save that. Okay, and now because I've changed something, I need to go to the services. Head down to NGxServer service and restart. Okay, now it's restarted. We'll nip back to the login. Log back in again and we'll check that our port is indeed saved. Oh, works well. Let's try again. Okay, go to system and just snip down to the bottom, and there's our port that we're listening to. Okay, so for now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this on the live log, and now I'm on the live log screen. We'll leave that there and I'll go over to a speaker. It will take me to my test speaker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log into here. Okay, I haven't got an audio gateway, but the interface on here is pretty much the same. And on the back of the speaker, it's a projector speaker. In the back, behind the little panel, there are some inputs and outputs. So basically, I'm simulating what you would do on the audio gateway. You can use a speaker as well. So what we're going to do first of all is we'll create an event. So if I go into Objects and I want to create an IP event. Now in here I've currently got some already done. Test. What I'll do is I'll delete it. Let's get rid of it and we'll do a new one. So let's add an event and we're going to go test event. Okay, and then we'll give it something to do. So we'll go down to our test event, go into the edit, and we have this 3760 port, which I've already done. And what we're going to do is we're going to fire this to my current server. So let's see, we're on 10.0.1.17 in this case. So what we're going to do is in here, I want to write test event. And this is the test event text that will get sent to the server on this port here. Okay. Now we have a live log running, and what we can do for now is just check that that is actually working. So if we go down to maintenance, diagnostics, we should be able to find that test event. And if I send it and head over to the server where we've left it on the live log, you'll see that we've received that test event macro. So this text here is case sensitive. It's quite important. So this trigger has the test event macro that's been sent from that speaker, and it has to be in the correct case. So if we have a test event like this and another test event with all lowercase, they will be separate events. Okay, so now we have that test event. What can we do? Well, we're going to head down to macros, and in here we'll create a new macro, and I'm going to call it test event incoming. So it can be any name you want, but That's what we'll call this one, just so we know what it is when we're looking in the macros. And we're going to look for that test event text. And then we'll give it something to do. And what I'm going to do is, because I'm actually writing this as a demo for starting a beacon, I'm going to activate a flex output on a speaker. And in here, I'm going to select the speaker that I want to send this event to, and I'm going to fire up flex output 1. And we can put in here, this is to fire the flex output input 1 on the test speaker. So now we know what it is, and we'll add that step in. And as you can see, I'm activating the flex output on the speaker to the test speaker, and we are sending out number 1. So this is going to be for output number 1, and if my little comment in here just to remind me. And before we leave this, we're going to save this macro. Okay, I'm going to nip back to the speaker very quickly just to show that if we go to the status, sorry, not the status, the logs, what we'll do is we'll clear that log, go back here, find that macro, and what we'll do is we will test it. So what we'll do is test the macro. Now let's see if that's gone out to the speaker. If we go over to our test speaker, go into our log and refresh, we can see that the flex input output 01 on request by 10.0.1.1.7, i.e. my server. Okay, so now we have that tested. How can we actually use that? So let's go back to our speaker, and what we'll do is we'll have some flex inputs. And what I have for this, so what I've done is I've programmed a couple up, and they are fired from a little web relay. And what I've done is I've got the relay open circuit going to normally open going to input 1, and I've got the normally closed going to input 2. And then what I've done is I've set up the generic event. So if I go to send generic event, and I go to here and select my test event, okay, and apply that. Okay, we can leave this one at the moment because currently we're not using it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire that input 1. That's going to send a generic IP event, which we've already programmed, and that's going to send it straight to the server. So the server will see this event. So here we go. If we go up, I've got a little relay here, which what is it on? 0.1.100, I think I've put it on. So I've got a little relay here, and all this is doing, as I say, is firing a normally open and a normally closed. It's got one relay, and I've just taken a wire from each of the outputs and the common into the speaker inputs, or the digital inputs that you would find on the audio gateway. And they can be 1, 2, 3 or 4. It doesn't really matter. It's up to you to choose. So if I now go back, check in here, we'll go back to the system and we'll go back to the live log. So what we can do now is go back to our web relay, and if we switch that on, we should see, hopefully, that the test event has now been sent from the speaker or the audio gateway. I've got nothing programmed for the other one at the moment, but what I'll do is I'll put another event on just to show this. Okay, so you join me back at the speaker, and I've got 2 more objects in here, which are, if we look, we have a beacons on, and if I have a quick look, I'm going to send that out to my current server. on that port, and we've got a beacons on text or macro event. And if we go to beacons off and check that, we'll go to the 17, which is what I'm currently listening on, 3760, and we got a beacons off. Okay, so we'll head down to our flex input output, click on the flex input. We've got number 1 enabled for normally open, and we're going to find the beacons on, and then we're going to enable the other one, leaving it on normally open, and I'm going to select excuse me, a generic event, and we'll select the beacons off, and we'll apply that. So now when we hit the input 1, it will fire the generic event for switching the beacons on, and if I fire input 2, which is when the relay switches state, it will fire the beacons off one. So if I now go back to our NGxServer, we'll go to the live log, which we're in. So we go to our web relay. If we fire the first input, we should see the beacons go on, and if we fire it back off again, it should go off again. So here we go, beacons on and beacons off. Now that's not going to currently do anything because we haven't got the macros. Down in the macros now, I'm going to add a new macro. This will become turn beacons on. Beacons on is the event trigger, and what we want to do is we want to activate the flex output on that speaker as it is. So we're going to activate the flex output 1. This is used to switch on the beacons. Add, and there we go. We're going to save that macro, and we're going to add another one. Turn beacons off. Macro trigger is going to be beacons off, and we'll go, we want to clear that flex output on the same speaker, and if you've got more than one speaker, obviously you have to do the same thing for each speaker. So here we go on here. This macro switches the beacons off. Go into add that and save. Just bear in mind that on here we have just the one speaker, but if you've got a group of speakers, unfortunately we can't add a group of speakers, so what we will have to do is add each speaker in turn. So we would just add the next step here, and you could just activate another one, so you can activate flex output, pick another speaker. I've only got the one, so imagine it's that one. I'll imagine we've got the second one on number 2, for instance, and add that, and it will then do both in that thing. So when it goes on, it'll switch on flex output 1 and flex output 2. But we were only using flex output 1, so in here I will delete that. Okay, can we test this? Yes, we can. So if we now test the macro and go back to our speaker and have a look in our log file, hopefully we should see, should have stayed logged in. So we're back at the speaker now, and we can go down to maintenance, have a look in the logs, and you can see that that was requested from the server. So that was us carrying out that macro. So let's go back, just double check. If we turn beacons on here, we can test the macro. And then let's turn the beacons off as well and test that macro as well. So we'll do that. Going back to the speaker again, if we refresh the log, we should see flex input on, and then flex input, input output 1 off. Hopefully that should give you an idea on how to program a macro. So obviously the steps are: start from the server and make sure that you have an event listening port defined, and save it and restart. Then you can go to your speaker or your audio gateway, and you can set up a generic event here. So in this case, we've got the beacons on, and we can edit what it does. Sends it out to our server IP address on the port that it's listening on, with an event macro text there. That's our trigger text. Okay. Next step, we can go down to the flex output, and we can set this to go up. So it's got various options, but the general control only just means it will get switched on or off. And then you can, if you want, test the macros from the diagnostics. Select your event, send it, and obviously we need to be in here. We need to be on the live log if you want to check that. So I'll just go back. We'll do that again. Beacons on. I'll send another one for beacons off. Okay, if I go back to the server now, we can see beacons on, beacons off. Now that we're receiving them events, we can go into our macros and we can program them. So you can see for beacons on, what we're going to do is the beacons on text comes in, and we've got this activate the flex output. And for the beacons off, in this case, we've got turn the beacons off, and down here you'll see that we're clearing the flex output on that on flex output number 1 on the speaker. Obviously, as I say, audio gateway exactly the same. It has digital inputs and it has digital outputs. So hopefully this will be a helpful video. Thank you.